Well, good morning, friends. We have a nice, chill and chilly, rainy morning here up in the mountains. I wanted to make a video to share a little bit about the idea of retreat, and specifically retreat in the context of yogic or meditative disciplines, practices. There are many retreats out there, and there's two distinct categories of retreat. There are group retreats that you take with a group of people, and then there are solo retreats that you take by yourself. For this video, I'm going to talk mostly about group retreats, but I'm also going to share some of the ideas of what retreats are for and how they can benefit us. So it's kind of a general overview of the retreat experience itself, but also I'll talk specifically about group retreats. I might make a future video about solo retreats, personal retreats, but we'll focus mostly on the general idea of retreat itself and also retreats with a group of people. So this video is out there for folks who are considering going on retreat, maybe have already been on retreat, folks who seek out retreats for the transformation that retreats can provide, and just basically anybody who is feeling the call to retreat, right? Retreat from the world, retreat from the day-to-day, retreat from the normal everyday life that we have. And I think that with the idea that we can go on retreats, the first place I'll start with the conversation here is just to think about, well, why? Why do we want to go on a retreat? What is the purpose or the driving factor that motivates us enough to set everything aside for a period of time and to actually retreat? And what does that mean? What does it mean to put everything aside and to sequester oneself away from the world? I think that this is for spiritual progress, at least in my own experience, my limited experience. Mind you, I've been practicing yoga for the past 11 years. I have been on, I can't remember how many personal retreats that I took by myself that were 1 week or more in length. 20, 30, maybe more retreats that I've been on with groups. About a dozen or so retreats that I've facilitated with groups. But yeah, retreats are something that I have some experience with. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with what I'm sharing, and what I kind of picked up, early on in my journey was that the transformation and the process of change, the process of healing, the process of growth, evolution is it can be quite a process, right? As you may be able to feel or know already. And that process has a variety of steps to it and a variety of feelings and sensations to it. The process that we go through to change or transform ourselves can be uncomfortable, it can be frustrating, it can be confusing, it can be disorienting. There can be moments at times that are moments of absolute clarity and bliss and understanding and revelation, and there are moments of despair and hopelessness and confusion, right? Darkness. So knowing that as we go through this process of transformation and healing, there are all these microclimates in that, it's like climbing the mountain. I use this analogy a lot with spiritual work. If we are serious about our work, and about the change that we're looking for and the transformation that we're looking for, then there is a mountain to climb, right? And a mountain that is a metaphor or a symbol of reaching some greater understanding about ourselves, right? Reaching some greater clarity about ourselves, about our path, our relationship to the Creator, our relationship to the world, our relationships in general with everybody, because how we relate to ourselves in the world is dependent on our understanding of who we are, right? And if there's parts of us that we're not really in a clear relationship with, right? If there's parts of us, of ourself, that have been undiscovered, things that we haven't learned about ourselves, then it's possible that in that ignorance of ourself, or those pockets of inauthenticity and basically self-delusion, where we aren't aware that we're unaware. You know what I mean? Like this is an ongoing process of becoming more aware. Then in those places of darkness and ignorance, that spills out into our world. And I think that that's kind of the basis for everybody's spiritual work, and kind of that alone, you know, that coming to the realization of like, oh wow, maybe I'm ignorant about some things, or maybe I haven't really reached my full potential. You know, maybe there's parts of myself that have been undiscovered, unenlightened, so to speak, like the light hasn't yet illuminated those shadowy bits. And I think this is true for everybody to some extent, right? Then as soon as I become aware of that part of my shadow, you know, or that part of myself that's in ignorance, and then I decide to do something about it, that's sort of the doorway that opens up to what I believe is the spiritual work, right? And if I open up the doorway to spiritual work, then all of a sudden there are many different avenues that I can take to engage in that work, right? There's many different spiritual technologies that can help me discover and help me to illuminate the dark corners and the dark recesses of my being. And retreats are one major way to do that. Now, why, right? Why are retreats effective? And you see them in multiple times in different lineages are very intentional about how they craft the retreat experience for the disciples and for the lineage carriers. That the importance of solitude, the importance of separating oneself from one's home environment for a period of time to engage in really deep work, inner work on oneself, that is ubiquitous, right? It's seen everywhere across culture. We have the vision quest in indigenous Native American culture, 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water in nature, in solitude and silence. We have 3 years, 3 months, 3 days in certain Tibetan lineages where they go into a cave and they meditate for that length of time. We have Vipassanas, 10 days of meditating in silence. There are, you know, numerous examples of how the retreat experience is a part of this transformational work that we're doing and the spiritual work that we're doing. And when I'm talking, you know, I want to share kind of about the essence of that. And it's interesting, right? Like, we live in this world, you know, and we have all the people around us in our daily life, and everything that we interact with in our daily life in some way can affirm who we think we are. You know what I mean? Like, I go about my day, I wake up, I know that this is going to be there, that this is going to be there, that I'm going to talk to this person, that this is my daily routine, right? I fall into the habit and the pattern of living a certain way, and I continually reaffirm my identity in that pattern. You know, sometimes people will wake up and go immediately on their phone and check emails or check their social media, and in so doing, like, trigger the neural pathway that is reaffirming who that person thinks they are in their reflection, in their relationship to all these other factors, right? And so doing that makes it really hard to break free of some of those patterns. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm continually reaffirming my self-identity and never giving myself space for that identity to shift or morph into a new form, then transformation is really difficult. You see what I'm saying? The retreat kind of puts a wrench in the gear of that structure. You know, it separates us from the home environment. And if we look at like mythologically speaking, and I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, and Joseph Campbell was a famous psychoanalyst and a student of the mind, a student of psychology, and the journey of the human soul to reach its full potential. He talks about this as the hero's journey. Maybe you've heard of this. He coined this term, the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is like a thematic motif that we see in multiple cultures about how a person, to reach their full potential, they must go on what he calls the hero's journey, which is like a pilgrimage of the soul, right? It's a journey outside of the confines of the narrow personality structure, right? And like, think about this metaphorically. To go outside of oneself and what one knows and believes to be true, to discover something that's not in the sphere of our awareness yet. And in so doing, by finding that treasure, he talks about how it's a descent into the underworld and then a facing of the dragon or the monster who's guarding the treasure. This is what we do in our spiritual work. We go inside and we confront, it's like the part of us that is been guarding the treasure of some new understanding or some new enlightened self, right? That's like, we're protecting that. Like, some part of us is protecting our experience of more power, of more of our sense of self being online. And that, it's interesting, you know, to look at this. But I think that looking at the hero's journey in that motif of leaving the home to pursue some unknown and right, like fighting a dragon, you know, what is that? What are we talking about when we're fighting the dragon, the monster? It's just a confrontation of one's shadow, you know, like there's shadowy bits in all of us, things that we don't know about ourselves that are ultimately creating limitation in our life in some way and preventing us from living our fullest potential, you know, our authentic nature is being obstructed by these masks, you know, these shadows. So the retreat as a tool that we use to take that journey, right? And literally a retreat oftentimes involves leaving the home physically and going somewhere else so that we can actually leave behind all those other things that may be entangling us in our life. And as I was saying, this can be an uncomfortable process. In fact, in some ways it should be an uncomfortable process, right? To confront the unknown is not necessarily always going to be sunshine and rainbows, right? Like I think that that's pretty intuitive, you know what I mean? And with, you know, since we're talking about group retreats, there's this benefit that we get when we go and we're with another group of people who have all decided that they're going to do this. You know what I mean? Like if we are a group of 10, like I have a retreat coming up. Some of you watching this may be coming on this retreat, so I think this video is relevant, that we have a group of 10 going up into the mountains to practice yoga and meditation and engage in plant medicine in a way that's designed to be transformative, of course, right? Like that's the intention, is that we go on this, we take this experience, or we allow this experience to be important enough to us that we can make it happen in our life. And then once we set foot on the journey away from home, the transformation starts to happen. It's like all the stuff that we're normally not aware of because of our daily life and the reaffirmations of the self, that's now coming up to the surface, because we no longer have a life raft to hold on to. It's just ourself and our will and our being, right, and our heart. That's what we take with us. Everything else has to be left behind. That's sort of like a rite of passage, it can be seen and should be seen, in my opinion, as a rite of passage. And in modern culture, there's no longer many rites of passage. We kind of have to seek them out. But in ancient culture, rites of passage were a significant part of human development. And to reach a mature human status, various rites of passages were engaged. This is especially true for men. And so a retreat is like this pilgrimage of the soul, right? It's this hero's journey. And if a retreat is worth its time and energy, and if there's money involved, like if we want to make it worth it to do as not just one time thing, not just an experience, we don't want to just, I don't think, seek out retreats as just like an experience to have, because it's potentially way, 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 way more than that. You know what I mean? Like, they have the potential to help us excavate things that we may not be seeing and may not have the ability to see outside of the retreat setting. And that is very important, I think, for our transformational work, our healing work, our spiritual work, that we approach the retreat setting with that reverence, and that sincerity and that intention and that clarity that, like, okay, I have a chance here, for however long this retreat is, I have a chance to really deal with some shit. You know what I mean? Like, I have a chance to confront some parts of myself that I might not get to confront otherwise. And yeah, it may be uncomfortable, and yeah, it might be all sorts of things. And I feel in my soul, this is like my own dialogue if I'm going to go on a retreat, is I feel like this is important. And not only is it important, but it's essential to the manifestation of my destiny, right? In order to really live in a way that I feel proud of, and excited about, and like alive inside, and just like a fire's lit and I am just ready to take on whatever is there. If that's something that I feel is important to me, then the retreat experience can be an essential part of the work that's necessary to arrive at that place. Yeah? So it can be, and, caveat, and it can just be an experience. It can just be something fun that we do to check the box and say, I did the thing, right? But it has the potential to be far more than that. So it just depends on our understanding going in, our clarity, our sincerity, our intention, and understanding, having the knowledge about what is this really for? What am I really doing with a retreat? And I think that, to conclude, having these retreat experiences as part of our spiritual work and part of our spiritual path, part of our sadhana, we may find that having a retreat each year that's very specifically, intentionally crafted for us in our journey can really accelerate that manifestation of that aliveness, that sense of fulfillment and alignment with our true potential. I think retreats can really accelerate that process because they break us through to higher vibrations of being for a short period of time that we can then glimpse a much more expansive view of reality, like this is while we're on retreat, and we can see that and hold that for a moment before we return back down the mountain and do our best to integrate all of those lessons and all of those things learned while we were in that expansive state. So it's a hero's journey. It can be a lot of fun. You do it with the right group of people. It's amazing, life-changing building of memories and bonds and friendships and brotherhood and sisterhood and ultimately family, right? The Sangha. And it's something that I think everybody, if they are serious about their work, should or can consider taking a retreat every now and then. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share. I hope it's helpful for you all out there, and wherever you are in the world, I hope that you find some time sometime in the future to set everything aside and go on retreat and just sort out some stuff, clean it out, empty out, realize some cool things, bring in more light, and then bring that light with you back into your life, into your community, into your family, into your friends, to share with others, because that's what it's all about. Yeah. With that, I bid thee farewell, and I will see you all soon. Peace.